is Rachel or Rainier. If you've been here before in recent times, you know I'm in the middle of a name change, so I like to just put both. So that's me. I am a licensed mental health counselor. I am based in Florida, like I said. I am a approved consultant in EMDR, board certified in telemental health, yoga teacher, and a qualified supervisor for supervisees in the state of Florida. So those are the things that I specialize in. And with the interest in holistic approaches, science, also, doing yoga instruction, breath work is important. And I know a lot of people hate it. So I'm going to try to make it easy, approachable, um, you know, because it's kind of a bit of a bad rap. A lot of times it's suggested by therapists, doctors, whomever, and yet I almost feel like people hear it so much that they're like, oh, that thing again, kind of like the running joke of, oh, everyone always recommends juice cleanses or yoga, and that's the answer to everything. I am not here to promote breath work as the answer to everything, just like I wouldn't promote anything as the answer to everything. But this is a really great practice and aspect to learn about and get into because it has so many benefits that are not just the actual in the moment work. So, what we'll be talking about mostly is the science and practice behind breath work. And we'll go through a couple of breathing exercises together just so you can have some things to kind of toy with and experiment with, see what you think about it. But I definitely want to share that there is no right pathway to recovery, success, healing. Take what you need and leave the rest. So if there's a couple things that I'm doing and you're like, I don't know about that, or I can't see myself doing that, I encourage you to always give it a try. Um, but other than that, if you're like, this doesn't really give me that extra oomph that I'm looking for, leave it on. There'll always be something else to find. There are so many techniques in this world. Also, whenever we do any of the exercises, please don't feel any need to pose or posture yourself in any sort of particular fashion. Um, a lot of times we think that we have to sit rigidly and breathe perfectly and we can't move our body. Tap around, stim around, move, reposture, reposition, open your eyes, reset, recenter. That will help you. That is not you being distracted, not doing the thing. But also feel free to be an observer. I'm a big fan of the approach of if you're trying something new, if you're going to a book club for the first time, if you're going to a new store, if you're thinking of doing something for yourself and you're not sure about it, be an observer. Most people don't mind. So here, if you're like, I don't really want to try anything today, just observe. You'll still learn that way. You just may have to actually do it in the future to get it sustained in your body as a practice that you're going to partake in. So we'll start with some of the science and background of breath work. Why are we doing this? We're going to sit here and do it. We need to know why and not just, don't just trust me and go on a hope and a prayer. Um, please always do your research, talk to your doctor, all that good stuff. Because you never know how some things might work. There will be some breathing exercises I'll give you a heads up on that it might be an irritant to if you deal with respiratory conditions or anything along those lines. Um, or if you're prone to passing out, some of the more energizing breath work that we'll do can be like that. So feel free to not partake or try a little bit. Just make yourself comfortable. So, breathwork. Breathwork has been around as long as humans have been around. So, this is not a new practice. I am not the person who founded it or knows everything about it. There are definitely many people that came before me and us, especially Indigenous folks, who have been in touch with this type of work for a good chunk of time. I'm simply here to highlight it in the way that I know best. So, breath work is a fancy word for manipulation of the breath to activate, engage, restore, calm, or rest. And it's all about changing your current status. So, if you're finding yourself in, say, a freeze response, there are some breathing exercises you can do to add a little bit of what we call fire and momentum in the body. If you are really over energized and you're, I don't need much sleep, I'm go, 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 I'm feel like a motor is inside of me, you might need something that's a little bit more grounding. So, how we breathe tends to affect how we feel. Most of us walk around with really interesting breathing patterns. So, we might be in this state of affairs where we're breathing from our chest. But even just thinking about that, that's the first step is where do I usually breathe from? Most of us through society and its very fast pace, we kind of end up breathing more on the upper part of the body, like the chest. And when we do chest breathing, I'm doing it right now, it tends to be very shallow and quick because it's not circulating all the way down the diaphragm, the belly, and coming back up. It tends to be this very, I almost think of it like a little arrow, like bing bong, just bounding here instead of this nice, long travel here and there, here and there. Now, if you look at a baby, if you've ever seen one recently, have one, if you just watch them breathe, maybe while they're resting or just sleeping or just having a chill moment. You usually see it almost looks like there's like one of those miniature little like water balloons just in their stomach, just inflating and deflating. Because that is the natural way of breathing before we get into the go, go, go of society, have any expectations of productivity and movement and momentum. We can look at babies. Babies are just existing. So they don't have, unless they've, dealt with something traumatic, they don't tend to have any effects to their nervous system, their breathing. They're just doing what they do. So a nice big belly breath is really what gives the extra oxygen and things like that. So breath work is really just about changing the state of affairs and knowing that you, at any literal second, have an empowering way to control something in your body. There's not much else that we can quickly kind of grab the reins on and change. Mostly it's just our body and our mind. And people often find changing the way that they're breathing easier than changing the way that they're thinking, especially fully and completely. Now, there's some breath work that you'll want to do sparingly. Then there's some that can become part of your daily coping and might be what I call your home base, where if you're feeling heightened in any way, you tend to draw back towards certain skills that you know will ground you. Now, for me, as much as I love energizing breathing skills, I don't tend to use them very much because I'm a risky person for passing out. I tend to use movement of my body to help energize me. shaking it out, wiggling, dance, following a tune or a beat. But I definitely get a lot out of the grounding, centering breathing skills. Those I know I can hold on to like an anchor because most of them are going to be repetitive. So we'll go over a couple different ones because there's some that just kind of agitate people, make them feel a little like eh. And then there's some that really help you ground in. And some of these will have a mutual benefit of blanking the mind out. So a lot of times the clientele I work with will ask me, is there something that will just give me a break from constant intrusions, fixations, or panic? Um, and yes, so some of the things we'll be doing today have such a level of added complexity. It's the working memory theory. It's taxing your working memory because we can usually only hold your average, no neurological issues, no big health issues, memory issues can hold between 5 and 7 things in a working memory. But usually it's more simple things like remembering a phone number or remembering a small list of names, not a whole fluid thought process, some other sort of skill we're working on, and then something else we're paying attention to. So we usually just don't have that capability to hold that many things. So some of these skills will be something that will essentially break through that headspace to widen what we call the window of tolerance, which, if you've ever heard of the CBT model, it's very basic, but it's good to understand is there's an event, there's usually a thought about an event, then the feeling comes, and then there's some sort of behavior. We want to essentially take the smushing together of the feeling and the behavior and start boop, boop, widening that. So before we make a choice about saying something to someone, not going somewhere, doing something rash or erratic, treating ourselves unkindly, skipping out on something, we have a period and a place and a time and skills that we need to do before we can get to making a behavioral choice. Because when they're together, it's usually I walked down the street, someone looked at me sideways, now I'm feeling anxious and worried. Now, and I'm also having these thoughts of there's something wrong with me, I did something wrong. So now I have these anxiety feelings, and now, I guess nobody likes me, so I'm not going to the party tonight. That's the feeling and the behavior way too close. Now, when we pull them away, and the new skill sets, which are many, not just breath work, that can be one of what's in the toolbox, will help us realize, okay, I'm in kind of a funky headspace. Pick up something from the toolbox, another thing, talk through it with somebody. Passage of time. I'm still feeling a little weird, but you know what? I'm gonna go to that gathering. I'm okay. All the tools come together. This is just one. So first, we'll talk about the energizing skill sets. Energizing ones are pretty effective at, without counting or timing, quickly being one of the ones that help us focus as well. So energizing breathing is typically going to be very quick, light, powerful. Um, and what it is we're trying to build up kind of that fire. A lot of people do some of these breathing exercises during things like Pilates and certain types of yoga, especially in holds, because when we're holding something, there's not that constant movement of like, okay, I'm exercising and that was tough, but I get to move on to the next exercise. My body doesn't have to sustain this. And during holds, our brain is usually like, oh my God, when are we done? When are we done? When are we done? So there's a lot of breathing of like, I need to keep focused, keep energizing, keep the fire going. So there'll be a lot of quick, light, sharp sounds. Yes, you just heads up if you have misophonia or anything like that. You will be hearing some mouth sounds. I'll try not to be ridiculous with it, but I want to help you understand what a skill looks like. So we'll go ahead and start with what is called, I kind of call it a Pilates breath. Um, it's more, I guess for lack of a better word, like passive inhales. Is like the inhale is not the focus. It tends to be very, very sharp and quick. And the exhale tends to make the big sound and things like that. So the forcefulness of the exhale tends to be more active. So in calming breathing, we usually extend the exhale, and I'll explain that a little bit more. In energizing breathing, it's to kind of get the heart rate up and get going and kind of speed it up. I always recommend starting with around 15 to 30 seconds. Then you can bump it up from there. I do not ever recommend doing energizing breath for longer than 5 minutes, although more advanced people that have been doing it for ages and know themselves very well can go up to 10. But energizing breathing is not like you're going to feel like you have nothing in your brain and you're like, yeah, it tends to get a little fuzzy, woozy, dizzy. We're not really going for that, so we keep it slow. So we'll go ahead and start with our breath of fire / Pilates breath. So I tend more towards the Pilates breath style, which is usually 2 sharp nasal inhales, very passive, and sharp, forceful mouth exhales. So a lot of times, if you've ever seen people I can't remember what the pose is called, but they'll be laying on the ground and they're bringing one leg straight up, toes pointed, and then holding it and going like 1, 2, down, next leg, 1, 2, down. It's very like this, that. That can kind of be an interesting visual to think of. All right. So like I said, all the rules, stop when you need to, don't do anything that doesn't make sense for you. But I'll go ahead and show you what it's like. It's those 2 sharp passive inhales through the nose, 2 forceful active exhales through the mouth. Both are they're all the same length, so it's just like that. All right. So I tend to close my eyes when I do these things. That's just how I operate. So, all right, we'll go ahead and get started. I often do a cleansing breath because those, yeah, I feel a little like got some movement here, a little bit of energy. But I do tend to start getting that ooh feeling early on. So I find a nice cleansing, really take in that oxygen. Now, as you sit here, I feel a little kind of like a cold, tingly feeling in the inside of my nostrils, more particularly my left one, even a little bit in the back of the throat. So just notice how that felt to do that. And something I forgot to mention is you may notice that when doing this, that like to really be forceful, not just be like just nothing's really happening there. That forceful, my abdomen, it's like the side walls of the abs are like coming in together to go push out. That is important to get the core involved. So if you're working on mindfulness of your body, which a lot of breath work, I know we talked about some of the benefits. It's great for people, certain types of breathing is great for people with dissociation. It can be very helpful for PTSD, personality disorders, general calming down, um, focus with ADHD, coping, just generally, really anything. But if you're trying to get more of an understanding of your body and the body mind connection, neuromuscular connection, if you're working on, oh, I've been using maybe the wrong muscles for the wrong things in my life and I'm trying to reset that, this is a great one to help you understand your core, to actually feel it. If you want to, you can always put your hand over where you're feeling that and just hold that area and really feel the pressure coming out. So you can now know this is how this feels when my core is engaged. When it's not engaged, it feels like this. So the core is definitely a major part of the whole chain of the body. So we'll go ahead and do it one more time. So remember, sharp, 1, 2, through the nose, forceful, abdomen engaged, out the mouth. All right. So that's your Breath of Fire inspired Pilates breath. Breath of Fire is usually, that's very, you're just dropping each from 2 and 2 to 1. So take a moment, now that we've talked a little bit about that mind-body connection, to see if there's anything you notice, just kind of scanning. It's good to do a body scan generally, but just looking around the lower abdomen, the chest, the nose, the throat, seeing if there's any new sensations. It can be temperature, weight, tingling, heaviness, lightness, shortness, depth. Just checking in with that. And as you're ready, we're going to move on to our lion's breath. This one, I've got to say, as much as I love it, it's great for just if you have these like just primal pent up, almost like you want to hiss at someone. Great at getting some of those feelings out. Now, does it look silly? Yes. Might you feel strange doing it? Yes. Am I going to feel strange doing it right now, being recorded? Also, yes. It's okay. We're all human. Um, so the lion's breath is kind of like what it sounds like. It's like a lion's roar, but in your exhale, you're doing the breathing out and you stick your tongue out. Now, it can be like kind of like a little cat, like, or you can really do the full, like, kind of thing. So it's this breathing style is supposed to get you in touch with, again, the abs and the forcefulness of the exhale. Also, just that deep part of us, that we forget is very mammal and is also, now we have many tools, so we don't think that way, but we are still technically a prey animal. Our brain is not caught up to our usage of tools and our understanding of ourselves nowadays. Um, so it's supposed to get us in touch with that. Um, and I know this sounds a little wacky maybe, but I've learned a lot from big cats. Big cats are great at just expressing what they need to when they need to, and are great at leaving trauma behind so it doesn't become an issue. So if you've ever seen big cats under major distress, Maybe they just, so it can be after they just did a chase and did not get any result. You know, they're chasing down a gazelle and nothing happened, it got away. They've just put a lot of energy into that. Maybe all the energy they had in the day, in the week, or maybe they were attacked by some other type of predator or predators. Anything like that. Maybe humans came in, disrupted their space. Anything that could be considered just overwhelming adrenaline. You will often see them, like you'll just see their kind of shoulders, like they'll just sit there, they'll be shaking their head and their shoulders, they'll look like their skin's twitching a little bit. They'll kind of do this whole thing that looks like a lot of twitches and tremoring, and that is them releasing the trauma. They're not trying to, okay, back to work, rigid posture it, which is when we hold in our trauma, and things like breath work and movement and therapy and journaling and all those fun things can help when it's kind of trapped in there. So as much as it might feel silly sometimes, the lion's breath can be very helpful at just feeling, not just, oh, I let myself cry a little bit or I let myself be a little bit mad, but feeling it. So how we do the lion's breath is we do that sharp inhale, similar to what we did previously, into the nose, and then we push all of the air out through, I almost think of like the back of the throat, like we're trying to project it forward while that tongue sticks out. So kind of sounds like you're hissing or like a little bit demonic or something, but you get the point. So you can stick your tongue out, like I said earlier, as much as you want, or a little bit, or just kind of play with the, without doing the whole rigmarole. Um, as long as you're still feeling that pushing out with that kind of primal intention of emotional expression, you're on the right track. All right, so just check in, make sure that your body is ready to go. If your shoulders have started inching up, just tell them, okay, bud, let's go back the shoulder chamber and go down, back and down. Feet on the floor, just here. And we'll do just a couple of these before we check in on how we feel. This one usually, because it's not so sharp and fast, usually we don't get as dizzy. So, all right, we'll begin. Now, as I was doing that, something came to mind. I remembered how I've noticed a couple people over my life had said, this one's helpful not just for emotional expression, but also um, gastrointestinal support. Because if you notice, it's a bit of that bearing down. Um, Obviously, please don't hurt yourself. We're not going to try to, get a hernia or anything, but there is a bit of that bearing down, which, if you're familiar with the chakras, can be a really cool one for the root chakra, which the root chakra is very much core issues, safety, security, understanding of self. And that's where sometimes our abandonment issues, attachment stuff, fear of scarcity, general fears can come up. So it's got a lot of our root stuff going on there. So those are those two. Now we're going to go ahead and move on to some grounding ones, just to kind of bring us back down from maybe some of the jazziness of those. I actually feel fairly calm with the lion's breath. It does give me a nice like, oomph feeling, but it doesn't take so much oxygen from me like the Pilates breath of fire type. So we'll be doing, which ones to do, which ones to do. And we've been working a lot with the kind of forceful exhale back of the throat. So we'll work at that again, but in a calming, grounding state and do something called ocean breath. So ocean breath is cool because when you're doing it, it kind of sounds rhythmic like the ocean. It's got that kind of hissy, interesting little like sound going on. But what we do to change it is, of course, it's much slower. Um, and we're keeping our mouth closed. So it's cool because when we're breathing in, that is coming through the nose. When we're breathing out, it's coming out through the mouth, as in that's where we're directing the air, but it's not physically coming out. We'll actually notice that it filters back out through the nostrils. So this is a cool one to like maybe put your finger, hand under while you're doing it to get that mind body connection because it kind of feels like you're expressing out through the mouth and you are, but it has nowhere to go, so it comes back out through the nostrils. So this one is well beloved because of that nice calming sound that you kind of get in the inside of your head, can even hear out loud. The nice calm exhale and just the interesting mind body connection piece. A lot of people find this one very grounding. This isn't one that inherently is great at, adding focus or disrupting intrusions. This is, I would say, a more general calming, grounding breath. So what we'll do is it's breathing in through the nose. As you'll notice, that's kind of a theme. Almost majority of the time, the inhale is going to come through the nose for any type of breathing exercise. The exhale will feel like it's coming out through the mouth. And how, if you're like, what are you talking about? Feel like it's coming out through the mouth, it's coming out through the nose, huh? Think of if you've ever gone up to a mirror and you're trying to just get that little area of humidity that you can write in, maybe like a little joke or smiley face. Or if you're like, okay, I can't see through my sunglasses on the road and you just need to do a quick, wipe them off. It's that kind of like you saw in lion's breath. You can feel it on your hand. You're like, there's some humidity in the air. It's just doing that with the mouth closed. So I'll show you first before we do a couple rounds and we feel it and we think about it. So my mouth is closed. Now I put my hand under here. There's a big flow coming out of the nostrils. This one you'll also feel a little bit of that core engagement, although we're not going so ham as maybe we did earlier. And we take it nice and easy. There doesn't need to be any rush. And in fact, I recommend that you have a second or two pass before you take in your next nasal inhale instead of just back and forth and back and forth. You can still have a rhythm, it's just slowing the rhythm down. So let's go for, say, 10, and then we'll pause. All right, as you're ready. I'm a little restful now. As something you might notice, I know in the first couple, and this tends to happen to me with this exercise, I have to remind myself, exhale it all out. Don't just take an extra old breath with you to the next one. So when there's like a point where I almost want to stop, but then I realize there's more in the tank. And I really push it. Again, we don't want strain, pain, anxiety. There might be a little feeling of that. As in the anxiety, strain, or pain, no. Um, but just let yourself deflate. And wherever you're feeling that, many times when we're taking these deep breaths, it goes from the chest, you start feeling it rise up in the stomach, then the stomach starts closing out, the chest starts closing out. So feel free to put your hand on your chest and stomach, or just one or the other, just to kind of track that deflation that we really want to feel. So we'll do 5 more of this one, and then we'll move on to our last one, and just a little tidying up about breath work. Any last thoughts, any potential questions that you might have, feel free to use any of the features available to do that. But we'll go into our 5. So I am going to do right hand chest, left hand stomach. That's what works for me, and I like to get in the lower stomach. And we'll do it again. All right, remember, in through the nose, feeling out through the mouth, but the mouth is closed, coming out through the nostrils like the feeling. I think I did 5. Either I did 4 or 6, or maybe 5. Okay, and that is a nice, easy one. I like that the name kind of helps you remember how it feels, how it sounds. So just kind of hold on to that one. All right. Now our last one we'll do is going to be alternate nostril breathing. So this one is a great one for focus, distraction, grounding, rhythm, calm. Kind of hits a lot of them. Of course, this one's a little more challenging to do in public per se. You'll see why. Really depends on how much you care about what other people are thinking and perceiving versus if you don't. To me, I'm like, mind your business. Someone's just doing a breathing exercise, but I know that this one's not the same. So we start with a nostril. I'm going to start with my left nostril being open and my right nostril being covered. You can feel free to use the pointer finger and the thumb. You can some people use all different sorts, the thumb and the pinky. Um, some people even use another hand. I just find the pointer finger and the thumb to be perfect for exactly what I need. So that's up to you to try. So I'll start with the left nostril open, and you're going to breathe in through it. Almost transfer, like volley over that breath to the right nostril, and while that's volleying over, you close the left. Let it come out the right. You breathe in through the right, volley that over to the left, let it come out the left. And back and forth and back and forth. If you, quote, mess up, truly there's no messing up, you're just trying to breathe and do something good for yourself, don't worry, just follow along with me or take a pause, take a cleansing kind of breath as you saw me do at the pause of some of the breathing exercises, and get back into it. Or take a complete pause and just observe. All right, so we'll do this for just a little bit. We'll give it some time. This one's usually a little easier to get into, and We want the exhale to be longer than the inhale. Earlier, when we were doing energizing breaths, I talked about it's going to be about the same, like with the first one. 2 inhales, 2 exhales. There's no off timing. Now this one, we want to focus extra on the exhale being longer than the inhale. And the exhale is longer than the inhale. And we're able to do that through pursed lips, anything like that. Or even just because this one's a nose. This one's nose heavy. A lot of times we have the mouth to exhale. This one's very nose heavy, so the mouth would be closed. The deflating kind of helps. Now, when we're doing exhaling out through the mouth, what can help it not just be a puff is the pursing of the lips, like you're blowing out a birthday candle on a cake. Like that. Because if we just go, we may as well be doing an energizing breath. And that, if we're in a panic state, we do not need an energizing breath. Let me tell you that. We're energized enough. This one will be nostril heavy, but still try to get that nice, consistent exhale. It's best if it's 2 times longer than the inhale. So if, say, your inhale is 2 seconds, your exhale is 4, 5, 6, 7 seconds. But don't push it. Don't be like I'm about to implode. We don't need that. All right. So whenever you're ready, again, check in with those shoulders. Are they crunching up towards the ear? Are they down back the chain of the shoulder? Are your feet on the floor or in a comfortable position? Are you holding your jaw tight? I'll let that go side to side and we'll begin. So like I said, I'm starting with my left nostril open, my right one closed by my thumb. We take our pause and we look inwards. So we'll end with a little bit of a body scan because we've done quite a number of things. We've energized, we've focused, we've calmed. And sometimes our body doesn't always respond well the first time. It might be like, ooh, this is new, this is different. It gets a little cagey about it. So it's good to check in and respect the body and thank it for what it's done, what it's been open to learning. So remember those feet on the floor, or if they're on something, perfect. Let's make sure they're touching something. Feel grounded. And we're just gonna sit. I'm gonna put my arms and my palms in my lap. I know you can't see that. I choose today to have my palms facing up. That is usually correlated with I am open to receive. I have enough gas in my tank to be able to receive more. Whereas if you flip your palms down on top of your thigh, that's more I need to ground. There's nothing more I really need right this moment. So I'm going to have mine open. Just going to do a little scan. So whatever helps you. Some people like to imagine a little wand of color go over them. Some people almost think of like if you've gotten wanded at like a concert, just like a little whoop, like being wanded over you. I like to think of it just like really briefly scanning, just looking for anything. And we're not looking for anything in particular. We're just observing as if we're watching somebody else. Like, what's coming up on their scan? Oh, a little bit of anxiety here, a little exhaustion here, some joy, some calm, some neutrality, a little bit of, hip pain, whatever it might be. We're just scanning and we're not trying to judge whether it's, we consider it good, bad, or indifferent, or neutral, or neither. We're just looking at it just to make note of the effects of everything you've done. So feel free to start at the top of your head. Scanning down through the eyes, the back of the eyes, eye sockets, the temples, the top of the sinuses and the cheeks, the ears, the sides of the jaw, nose, mouth, tongue, back of the tongue, throat, pit of the throat, esophageal area, neck, upper shoulders, front and back of the body, clavicle, mid-shoulder, chest, middle of the back, upper stomach, upper back, lower stomach, lower back, hips, glutes, pelvic floor, quads, upper thigh, knee, lower leg slash calves, heel, ball of the foot, big toes, second toes, third toes, fourth toes, pinky toes, hands, hands open, hands down, grounded, full body picture. And you may circle in your mind some of those areas, no matter what they are, thinking of their color, shape, weight, texture, size. Just know that they're there and it's simply information. There's nothing to do with it except to take it as information to integrate. And thank your body and mind for allowing you to show up, be open, be present to learning something new, different, old, revisiting. And we'll take a nice big breath together. I am going to raise my hands up for a little bit of energy and look up a brief little back bend just for that. And you know what? I'm not even doing what I need to do. I'm in the zone. We can bring it down to our heart center or all the way down to the palms being up or down. And we're ready to move on with our day. So, just as a quick review, some of the things we did were breath of fire / Pilates breath, lion's breath, ocean breath, alternate nostril breathing, discussing inhales and exhales, mind-body connection with the abdominals, and the use of energizing for if we are latent, lack of motivation, slow moving, the use of calming, really any time, but especially if we're a bit heightened and we don't need any of that extra energy to bring ourselves back down. And know that you are always in control of the tools that you have and the ability to gather more. And all you have to do is show up and experiment. So I'm super grateful for all of you today for being open, willing, ready, or even just curious. And if you need anything, you can contact me through Pineapple Support. And please keep showing up to Pineapple Support. There's so much. There's webinars, there's workshops. Like today was a workshop. There's support groups, there's drop-in groups, there is in-person opportunities. This community will show up for you. So always feel free to stop by. All right, without further ado, I will catch you on the flip side. I'll be seeing most of you a couple days before Christmas for our Pineapple Mental Health Summit. Please come on down. It'll be great, informative, warm, and inviting. And I hope all of you that celebrate, don't, at the very least, are having a peaceful holiday season. So stay warm, stay grounded, and see you next time.